My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the MatSu Valley real estate market, looking at the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market. This is kind of an interesting market to be looking at the moment. We're starting to see some trends that are promising, and I'm going to try to give you some context and also try to give you a kind of a comparison for what the MatSu Valley offers compared to its neighbor, which is going to be Anchorage. So we'll get to all of that in just a minute. Before we get started though, do give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and let's go and jump into it. Now, the first thing that we see is that this time last year, there was about 417 properties available on the market. Now it's 411. So a couple things. Number one, we do see that just across the board in the MatSu Valley, we saw that there's kind of a trend this year that we are starting to see more inventory year over year. Not saying that we have just a big flood of inventory, but it is saying that, hey, maybe we're not just continuing to just go straight to the bottom as far as our options that are available out there. A big part of that is we have an actual new construction scene out here, which is actually encouraged and not discouraged like it is over in Anchorage. Another thing I want to point out, really this year for the most part, it stayed pretty neck and neck with what it was year over year compared to the year before, but also it's still really low because this time of year, pre-pandemic would usually be right around like 720, 750, maybe up to like a little over 800. So the fact that we're still at about 411 is still pretty low, but it's baby steps here. We start looking at those trends and we'll get excited about the trends. Now, the next thing we see is that this time last year, there was 183 properties that actually sold, transferred ownership to somebody else, and now it's 139. So see a bit of a decrease there. Not a huge change for what we've seen for the entire year. We've seen a slight decrease in the number of properties that have sold compared to the year before. In the months that we're looking at, it's been about the same. So it's not a huge surprise there. Now, the next thing we see is that this time last year, the average sold price year to date was about $382,000. Now it's $399,000. So we haven't quite hit that point yet where for the month of October, the year to date is about $400,000 in the MatSu. Pretty close there. Like it's a knockin'. It's just going to be a matter of time. And just to give you an idea on how meteoric of a rise that's been, back in 2019, about this time, it was about $276,000 was the average sold price. So even though we are starting to see a bit of a slowdown in the increase, that doesn't mean that it's not increasing, though. It just means that it's not increasing by as much of an increase. To give you an example, since 2020, we see that it went up 9.9% and then 15.5% and then 9.9% this time last year. And then this year, it increased by 4.4%. So still an increase, starting to see a bit of a slowdown at the rate it's going up. Not really expecting that to change anytime soon, just because the inventory that's available is probably not going to suddenly shoot through the roof. And supply and demand is going to be a factor variable in any economic outlook that's going to trump a lot of the big sophisticated theories that you're going to see floating around out there. All right, now let's go and take a look at what's going on in the condo market. And the condo market, we've said this a million times before, it's really not the thing to be the asset class in the MatSu Valley because people don't move out here to find a condo. They usually move out here to get some privacy, at least an acre, all this good stuff. And the condo market is still something that we're going to keep an eye on, though, because some people need it. So this time last year, there were 4 condos available. This year, it is 11. So there you go, exponentially increasing in the inventory for condos. This time last year in October, we see that 2 condos sold, and this year it is 3 condos that sold. So there you go. Condos are apparently the up-and-coming thing in the MatSu. Next thing we see is that we had about the average sold price this time last year was about $261,000. Now it's approximately $231,000. So decrease there. Again, we get such a small sample size. I've said this in a lot of different videos, but super small sample size. And you can see like big swings in the data one way or the other. It would not surprise me to see if there's probably a slight increase, if you had 1 condo this time last year and you sold it versus if you sold it this year. But it all comes down to the stats as to which condo sold once the sample size is so small. Now, before we get into the multifamily market section of this update and kind of give you a bit of a summary and some takeaways for you, let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a bit, you do know that we host a monthly meetup. Due to a recent tragedy in my family, I haven't really been as on top of the monthly meetup for this past month, but do feel free to jump into that meetup. Some colleagues of mine are going to be assisting with kind of coordinating some activities that we have planned for you guys. So don't think that I've forgotten about it. Do make sure you hop into there, and we'll make sure we get you plugged into our monthly meetup. And this is a great opportunity for those of you who have recently moved here and are just looking for some way to plug in, because we know that for a lot of people, meeting people when they move to a new location is one of their biggest fears, and we want to make sure we're helping with that as best we can. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the multifamily market and give you a summary. Now, looking at the multifamily market this time last year, we see that there were 43 multifamily properties that were available. Now we're seeing about 36. So seeing a bit of a decrease in the number of multifamily properties that are available, at least for the month of October. This is really not the norm really for the entire year. It's really October, and I guess it's also September. We saw a bit of a decrease, but every month preceding that, we see there was actually a sizable increase in the number of multifamily properties that are available. And a big reason for that is we are seeing more and more multifamily properties coming onto the market because more of the population from Anchorage is kind of migrating to this area, and they need places to live. And so investors are going to start buying up as many of these properties as they can. And so more of those are coming onto the market. So good place to be as far as that goes. And more options available than what you're going to find if you're an investor than what you would probably find in Anchorage. Now, looking at the number of properties that have actually sold, we see that this time last year it was 10, and this year it's only 4. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me the interest rates are having an impact on the multifamily market up here in Alaska. Looking at the MatSu, which it's going to have that impact on just about every multifamily asset class across the entire state and country, because the interest rates you get are very, very tied up with the value of the property, more so than what you're going to find with a primary residence. Because as an investment, it is nothing but numbers and math and making sure the thing is cash flow. You're not upside down on the thing. If you're looking at a primary residence, there's some other things to be considering as well. So that's why you're going to probably see a bit of a decrease in the number of multifamily properties that are actually selling for a little bit, just because the interest rates are a little higher. And so a lot of investors are probably just holding on to their cash for a bit. Or they're using the cash they have to go improve the other multifamily properties that they currently have, which isn't a bad option either. Last but not least, we see the average sold price went from about $494,000 this time last year to about $579,000 this year. So that's right, about a 17% increase for the average sold price for multifamily in the MatSu Valley. I'm going to say I expect to see kind of a healthy appreciation for the multifamily properties that are selling, just because rents are going up. Just that's what they do during a time of inflation. No one's trying to make that happen. It just happens. And also, you just get more and more people that are moving to the MatSu Valley because they're starting to become more conveniences. They're starting to be more of a commercial center here, and people are honestly just kind of getting tired of Anchorage. And so a lot of people will come out here and just enjoy a lot of the conveniences and a lot of the lifestyle that the MatSu Valley offers. That does make these investment properties more valuable because more tenants moving here, and that does make the rent on the properties go up, which makes the property more valuable. So not a big surprise there. I do not expect to see a 17% increase as the average sold price for every property. When we're looking at multifamily properties, I think really what it comes down to, when we're looking at the data at least, is what property specifically sold, because multifamily includes everything from the duplex all the way up to like the big 30 plus unit multifamily. So it really does include a lot. So I expect to see an increase, not necessarily 17%. Now let's go ahead and give you guys a bit of a summary here. So first off, if you're a buyer, I know this sounds self-serving, and as soon as I say this, the comments are just full of people going, a real estate agent saying you should buy right now. That's a big shocker. But let me give you my logic for saying why, if you're in a good financial position, it's probably an opportune time to be looking at purchasing something. And that is because if you get a property right now, you're not going to have as much competition as you had a couple of years ago. And if interest rates come down, though, you can just refinance your property, get the lower interest rate, and you're not competing with a bunch of people who also decided to just sit on the sidelines until interest rates came down, which I've heard a lot of people talking about doing that, and it is going to be such a bloodbath as soon as interest rates do come down, because everyone's going to just converge at the same time on the few properties we have available on the market. Because unless interest rates come down in a big way, I don't think it's going to shake a lot of these sellers loose from the properties they have where they've got 2 or 3, 4% interest rates. So unless it comes down drastically by that much, I really don't think you're going to see a whole lot more inventory available than what we're seeing now. You're just going to have a lot more competition than what we had before, which is going to make the competition and the craziness of 2020 in the real estate market seem like child's play. So for that reason, I would much rather get into a property right now. And then if all that starts happening, you're not out there trying to offer $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price and give all these concessions. You're just able to sit back, enjoy the appreciation on your property, refinance, and watch everyone else lose their minds. If you're a seller, this is a good time to be looking at making that move if it makes sense for your family. I would say that if you are doing anything in real estate, the big thing is less important about trying to time the market, because there's no timing the market. We don't know what's going to happen for sure. But what we do know is right now it's a favorable time if you are a seller. So if you're wanting to make that move and makes sense for you, definitely a good time to be considering it. And you're not going to get the same terms and everything that you got a couple of years ago or your neighbors got a couple of years ago, just because it's a different market, but it's still going to be pretty favorable. And that's something you're considering. Reach out. Let's see how we can help you. If you're an investor, it's a solid market to be in. Just make sure all your numbers pencil out. It can be a great market to be investing in, especially if you're looking more to the long term. So this has been your market update. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you have questions, and we'll see you next time.